grateful I'm alive. On your back, woo! I'm so grateful I'm alive. 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 Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Awakening Waves.
Right. Awesome. Wow. That's a great one to have in your head all week. You jump out of bed, I'm so grateful I'm alive. I'm so grateful I'm alive. Not, oh, it's raining again. Let's jump out of bed like that. I'm so grateful I'm alive. The weather does not affect me and my mood. And then I love how the prayer happened and then the music and then the sun. It's like, yeah, we are aligned with the universe and life is good. Hello, good morning. I know some of us need our sunglasses, right? You can put your sunglasses on. I won't be offended. Oh, good morning. We have some new faces here this morning and some familiar faces. If this is your second time here, will you raise your hand? All right, for second timers. If this is your first time here, would you raise your hand? All right, woo! Beautiful. It's a great day to be alive. I am definitely grateful I'm alive, and I'm grateful that you are all here too. Good morning, Jody. All right, so this month we're in the month of March, in case you forgot, and this is already the third week. I mean, time is flying by, isn't it? It just does, doesn't it? And so the month has been about authenticity, and this week, we're looking at how boundaries build bridges. And so it's really about the importance for us to have boundaries, right? To have boundaries in our lives. And Brene Brown actually offers us the quote that compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to, and when they say yes, they mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them out of resentment, right? Can you relate to that? And so what happens oftentimes is if we don't have our boundaries and we don't speak them and communicate them and we're not really enforcing them, then what happens for us is we say yes when we don't mean to, and we end up overwhelmed, overworked, overtired, and then we become resentful, and we have this resentment, but we could have easily prevented that. And so we tend to start to blame the other people, and we get mad at the other people. But realistically, the solution is for us to create boundaries for ourselves so that we have the time that we need to do what we need to do that is going to fulfill us, nurture us, and sustain us. Oh, boundaries are so good. It's just one of those subtle little things, Now, boundaries are where we end and the other begins. So Nancy Levin, in her book, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free, defines boundaries as a limit that you set to define what you will or will not do, or what you will or will not accept or tolerate from others. If we desire to express ourselves authentically, we must become familiar with and clarify these boundaries for ourselves and others. Boundaries are the container in which our authentic self resides. So if we have clear boundaries set, then we find that it is easy for us, it's much easier for us to be all that we came here to be, because we know we have this level of protection, right? And we are responsible, and we have a level of responsibility for ourselves, and we know that Spirit has our backs, and the universe is our divine protector, and there's nothing for us to be concerned about. We know where we end and where another begins, and we know where others begin and where others end and we begin. You get the idea. So having that clarity about our boundaries empowers us to know what is ours to be and do in the world. And until we communicate these boundaries and hold others accountable to them, we cannot expect others to honor them. So we can't get mad if we have no boundaries and others are crossing them all over the place, and we feel uncomfortable because, if somebody's in our personal space or whatever it is, we're not speaking it or having that declaration. So sometimes it's difficult to share our boundaries, and there's no shame in sharing your boundaries. It is a beautiful thing. It may feel selfish or difficult, or we may feel like we're being unspiritual, but that is not the case. It is still our responsibility to actually set those boundaries. Now, letting others know about our boundaries keeps us from being stepped on, and it actually creates a bridge for others to walk over and connect with us, and then we have this level of authentic connection that we may not have had before. So once again, the gifts, right? The gifts of imperfection, that is our book of the month this month. The gifts are actually compassion, connection, and courage. And so having our boundaries in place is another way for us to know ourselves in a deeper way and building that bridge for beautiful connections, because that's what we long for, right? We're social beings. We want to connect with others. We want to connect with the God of our understanding, and we want to have that connection with others. Raise your hand if you want to have that connection with others, right? Yeah, you are my people. So we're all exactly where we're supposed to be this morning. Now, Brene Brown is a research professor and author, and she has shared personal stories about setting boundaries in her life. It wasn't always easy for her. In one of her books called Daring Greatly, she discusses how she had to learn to set boundaries in her personal life and her professional life. One example she gives is about a work situation where she was being asked to take on too many projects and was feeling overwhelmed. She had a conversation with her boss and set a boundary by saying, well, I'm happy to take on these projects, but I need to know which ones are the highest priority because I can't do them all at once. I just can't. And so this helped her manage her workload and feel more in control of her time and energy. So that's a thing that feels like it gets sucked out, right? When you feel like you don't have enough time and you don't have enough energy to do the things that you want to do because you're doing the things that everybody else wants you to do. I can't relate to that at all. Yeah, it's like a daily thing, right? And so we practice setting our boundaries and we practice speaking them, and they might come out a little wonky at first. Like we might be like, no! But we'll learn, we learn how to communicate them with love and grace, and it's a beautiful thing. And so another example is she talks about how she had to set boundaries with a family member who was constantly criticizing her parenting choices. And she ended up expressing to the family member how that criticism was affecting her and her family. And so she set this clear boundary that the behavior was not acceptable. And this helped her to maintain a healthier relationship with the family member and to protect her own mental and emotional well-being. So I love all of that, right? Now, I want to also say that I also love Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh lived the mystical truth, and here's what he knew. He knew this body is not me. I am not caught in this body. I am life without boundaries. I have never been born, and I have never died. Over there, the wide ocean and the sky with many galaxies all manifests from the basis of consciousness. Since beginningless time, I have always been free. Birth and death are only a door through which we go in and out of. Birth and death are like a game of hide and seek. So smile to me and take my hand and wave goodbye. Tomorrow we shall meet again, or even before. We will always be meeting again at the true source, always meeting again on the myriad paths of life. And this is from his book, No Death, No Fear. And so I wanted to share that because while, yes, we need to have boundaries in our relationships, and this is a tool for us in being human, right? We're spiritual beings having a human experience. We need a little bit of guidance, don't we? I mean, it's easy to step back and take the backward step and be that observer and be totally connected to the thing itself, the presence, and, we're like, in our space. And then what happens when we go out into the world? There's people everywhere. Have you noticed? People are everywhere. People are in my house. People are at the grocery store. There's people here. People are at work. People are at Starbucks. There's people everywhere. And so being spiritual beings, having this human experience, learning to relate and finding our sense of safety in the world, knowing that the divine is at the center of our being and we are spiritual beings, we also know that, okay, here's some things that we can do in our lives that allow it to be a good life and allow us to connect and have these deep, fulfilling, loving, and nurturing relationships with one another. Yes? Awesome. So Thich Nhat Hanh brought huge love to humanity, and that will extend forevermore. Now, this was about a year ago. My husband and I were out on a walk. We like to do urban hikes sometimes, which is like these days, we kind of have to do urban hikes until all of that dirt dries up, right? It's mud right now, so we don't want to go up there in the puddles and all that. But we do urban hikes, and last year we did this urban hike, and we were walking through slow, and we came around near the train station, and at the train station, I noticed the one-way parking lot had spikes at the exit. And I thought, now that is a very clear boundary. That's really clear. That sends me the clear and definite message to not go that way. I'm not going that way, right? I'm not going that way. So it reminded me that setting clear boundaries is an act of self-love. It's a great act of self-love. Now, boundaries will differ from one person to the next. In its simplest form, a personal boundary is where my responsibility ends and another person's responsibility begins. So it can feel awkward at times, as I mentioned. That's just because we're out of practice. So we can remember that we're growing and it's okay. And we love ourselves enough to set these boundaries because we deserve it. You deserve it. Ernest Holmes observed, "We are strong with the strength of the infinite. We are not weak. We are great and not mean. We are one with the infinite mind." So we can express these boundaries with clarity, love, and compassion, and it feels magnificent. And I was also thinking about boundaries and how we get more clarity about what our boundaries are, and then it's like a smooth, like if you cut a cake and you have the perfect knife, it cuts a smooth cut, right? But if you have like a plastic knife, it gets all messy and chunky and it's awful. So imagine setting the boundaries as like you're cutting the chocolate cake with a perfect knife and creating that perfect slice, right? It's perfect and it's easy and there is a sense of grace and beauty in that. So I wrote something called a plan for self-care. Now plan, well, it's actually a download from Spirit, right? I didn't write it. It was definitely something that just came through. So it was a plan, P-L-A-N, and that's an acronym for Positively Life-Affirming Narrative. Plan. Everyone needs a plan. So here is your positively life-affirming narrative for self-care, self-love. I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. I eat clean food that nourishes my body, mind, and spirit. I drink plenty of water, and it is so delicious. I'm radiant, vibrant, and glowing. I move my body as often as I can. I hold myself in the highest esteem and take excellent care of me. I set healthy boundaries and know when to say no. My self-talk is positive, proactive, and rich. I put outfits together that make me feel great. I give myself ample time to rest, rejuvenate, and recharge. I practice my practice and walk my talk. I love my life and everyone in it. Oh yes, I'm grateful, thankful, and blessed. Yeah. So considering our boundaries, we don't have to make up boundaries. We have boundaries. We're just uncovering them, Our boundaries we feel them. If somebody oversteps a boundary, we'll feel like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait a second, right now I'm so strongly thinking about Timber Hawkeye. We love Timber Hawkeye, right? Oh my gosh, and he's kind of like, he's like, back over here on the side with his mask, and it's like, this is my space. And he's kind of giving that off, right? There's a sense, and and he even speaks it to us, and we see it on Facebook, for those of you who follow on Facebook, about the peopling, and I peopled too much today. He likes to have a little space. But that boundary was so clear, and it was communicated in such a loving and beautiful way. I love that. But we don't have to make up our boundaries. Our boundaries already exist. We're uncovering them and learning how to communicate them so that we can have a sense of safety and feel that others are respecting our boundaries. We can't expect others to respect our boundaries if we're not speaking them, right? So those boundaries actually build bridges. So don't come around this way, come in this way, right? It's like, if you're a person who doesn't like to have text messages come to you, you ask for a phone call, and then the person will start calling you instead. Otherwise, text, and you're getting mad, with every text. There is that buildup of, of annoying, right? And so we have to actually speak that. We have to actually speak that. So communicating those boundaries are beautiful, and it's an opportunity for us to practice courage and communicate. And the last piece of this is no is a complete sentence. What? No, period. That's a complete sentence. Yeah, that's a complete sentence. So knowing our values and limits empowers us to live in alignment with them. It helps us to say yes to our yeses and no to our no's. How many of you have ever said yes to something that you meant to say no to? And then you got upset about it. What? I didn't see your hands. You didn't get upset? Yeah. You said yes when you meant to say no, and then you're stuck and you get resentful about it, right? So saying yes to our yeses and no to our no's keeps us in alignment with our values. As we live out loud, which is the theme for this year, living out loud, it's up to us to honor these values and our boundaries and clarify them with others. And one way to do that is to say, no. Ah, that kind of feels good. Nope. Just say that. No. One more time. Say no. Like, say it and you feel like you're cool with it. No. Okay. All right, we're good. No more no's. I'm done with the no's. I want to hear the yeses. You get the point, right? So when we say yes, when we mean no, or we compromise our comfort in order to please someone, or we give in to something we don't want, it is our authentic self that is disrespected. That's why it feels yucky. It just feels yucky. And so we can't be crossing our own boundaries, right? We want to pay attention to what our boundaries are and respect our own boundaries and honor those. That is an act of self-love, and that is a way that we cultivate our authenticity. It is so good. So there's another piece I wanted to share with you, which is, okay, there's all this about boundaries, but what about energetic boundaries, you know? I was thinking about, there are some great spiritual teachers. One that comes to mind is Terry Cole Whitaker. You familiar with Terry Cole Whitaker? She's the one that said, "What you think of me is none of my business." She has a book, but you don't even need to read the book. The cover says, "What you think of me is none of my business." That's what you need to know. Anyway, she was really about, when you get to a certain level, you start to realize and understand that wherever you are, you're absorbing the energy, right? You can't help but do it. It's just the way it works. You absorb this energy, and so she didn't want to just absorb any energy, so she moved to like Mount Shasta out in the boondocks out there. So she got to choose whose energy she was going to be around, and she didn't come out that much. She was over it. She didn't want to be around it. And so that's interesting to me because we're in this world, right? So you've heard in the world, but not of the world. And so how do we move through the world in spaces where we know are going to be, but we need to have a level of protection. We need to have energetic boundaries. Now, this is especially true for those of us who are empaths, which probably most of you are. How many of you know that you're an empath? Yeah, so you pick up on the energy and you kind of take it on because it's just, you're a feeling being. And so there's a beautiful way for us to create energetic boundaries for ourselves. And this is something called the me, not me practice. And you can look that up and find more information about it in a book called The 5 Personality Patterns by Stephen Kessler. But a simple practice to get you started on this is you will sit or stand in a safe place where you can be alone. And so while we're not alone, I'm going to invite everyone to do this practice right now. So let's close our eyes and say your name to yourself, Elizabeth, and feel the sense of me, feel the sense of you when you say your name to yourself, and attune to the feeling of being truly yourself. And now imagine a circle of light around you in any color. It's about 2 to 3 feet in all directions. This serves as your energetic boundary. Now declare to yourself and the universe that the space inside this is your space, and it is for you alone. Anything that is not me is not permitted entry into this space and needs to stay outside of this circle. And then say your name again a few times and clear out anything not me from your personal space. You can imagine the energy leaving in any way you wish. Maybe it's like a gray smoke that is blowing away and leaving your space clear. And then you can open your eyes as it feels natural to do so. So then when you are out and about around other people, and you regularly declare your me, not me, by visualizing that energetic boundary so that other people's energies bounce off of it. That means that if you're somewhere and there's something difficult happening or there's some kind of negative charge in the environment that you're in, you don't take that on. You get to still be your authentic you and who you are. You can meet the thoughts and feelings and emotions with understanding and compassion out at the edge of that energetic space that belongs to you in your imagination. But that energy isn't allowed in. Isn't that powerful? Wow, that's amazing. So that is your way to set that boundary for energy. So friends, in conclusion, we teach others how to be with us. And we have to ask ourselves, how will others know how to treat us if we do not let them know? If we are waiting to see if they will respect what we believe, they should have known all along. We are playing games, and those games will sabotage our relationships. It's a setup, really, for all involved. Once we know our own boundaries, it becomes an act of love for us to share those with others. It invites others to be better and understand us better, and communicates the way of our heart. When boundaries do get crossed, we can have the heart-to-heart conversations for reconciliation. If we remain quiet when a boundary has been crossed and it really matters to us, our hearts will remain separate, and we will feel bad while we inwardly judge and resent others. That cuts us off, though, from feeling compassion for others when needed. So, as a reminder, authenticity is a practice. We can start right now where we are today. Forgive ourselves and others from being perfectly imperfect and begin again. So there are some questions that you can ask yourself this week to help you get more into alignment with your own boundaries. And those questions are, number one, are there areas in your life that you are aware of where you need to set limits? Number two, what ways do you feel that people should treat one another? Are these ways that you expect to be treated? And number three, are there areas where you feel that others have more control of your time or energy than you do? And how can you redefine your boundaries in those areas? All right, so I'm going to invite Travis to come up and invite you all to do the little shuffle. We call it the religious science shuffle, where you get comfortable in your chair, do whatever you need to do to allow yourself to be fully present. And I want to share with everyone also in this moment that we have a new position for our soul support team, and that position is the High Watcher. And so the High Watcher is going to be sitting up here in the front, and today it's Kristen, and she's holding the consciousness, and so she's in a deep meditative state and just holding that space for healing in this community, for whatever is on the hearts of everyone that walked in the door this morning. Who knows what it is, right? But she's holding that space for us all, and holding the space for divine perfection and for your minister or your speaker, right, of the day to deliver the message in whatever words that need to be said are said, and that it's received with an open heart and an open mind. Isn't that beautiful? And so we'll have a different practitioner each week holding the high watch for us. All right, so let's turn our attention inward now. Oh, yeah. And join me in returning to that beautiful, expansive space where we join Kristen in this space of love and goodness. And it is that space that is right within us. And I'm so grateful to be in this space of pure love. I'm so grateful in this moment to have this opportunity to turn my attention inward And as I turn my attention inward, I can't help but have my ears hearing the sound of the wind that is blowing on this building, and to hear the water that is outside, and to also have the beautiful guitar music. It's like an anchoring is taking place, and with every sound that is heard, it's an opportunity for me to go deeper. And I am deep in this space of love. And I know that this love is here now and always, that it can never disappear. We may turn our attention away from it, but this love that lives within us is always present. And I know and declare for each one of us that as we go forward through our week, we continue to learn more about ourselves and set boundaries with love. We have no need to be resentful. We are compassionate beings. We are loving beings. We are way showers. We are the bringers of the light. And being a bringer of the light is a bringer of compassion and joy and sparkling good wherever we go. And so I know this sparkling good bubbles up from the deepest place within us. And we let it come out. We let it shine. Because we are grateful we're alive. And we know there is a good for us and we ought to have it. And so knowing and remembering that Spirit loves us exactly as we are, and that we are spiritual beings having this human experience, we use these beautiful tools that allow us to connect on a deeper level. And I know that every day in every way we are getting better and better. We are masters. And I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for my connection with the divine. I'm grateful for this relationship with the divine that is constantly evolving and growing and deepening for each one of us. Whatever you choose to call it, Spirit, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, the divine, the way, the force, creative intelligence, source energy. Our relationship is getting better and better with that presence every day. And it wants to shine through us. It wants to love through us. It wants to live magnificently through us. And we let it. So thank you, Spirit. Thank you for being this presence in my life. Thank you for providing this beautiful goodness. Thank you for this human experience. I'm so grateful. And in that gratitude, I just feel appreciation and so much love washing over me and lighting up every single cell in my body. And I allow it to be as I give thanks and release this prayer into that loving and creative action of the law where I know it is done. And so it is. So it is. Yeah. Thank you.